Good morning. I think we'll get started. We're going to try and keep everyone on time. Welcome to the 12th Annual CFAR Scientific Retreat. I think this year, last time we checked registration, we've topped our previous years. I think we were about 174. So again, I think we're experiencing some good growth, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So I want to give you a brief overview of where we are in the CFAR. CFAR, as most of you know, is an infrastructure grant from the NIH, and it's meant to support those investigators who are NIH funded from the from the government, and to create infrastructure, create small grants programs, et cetera. And both Herman and I will talk a little bit about some of the metrics by which CFARs are judged. Just to bring you up to date, we are now beginning, or as of July 1st, we're beginning CFAR year 12. We had our highly successful competitive renewal 2 years ago, where we scored a 13, and we kind of celebrated that last year. Now we're already anticipating the next competitive renewal, which is 2019-2020. So again, we'll be looking for your help as we move forward. We have experienced growth. Every year, the Office of AIDS Research sends our funded research base, which tells us how much NIH funding is coming into Duke per year that's HIV/AIDS related. And we grew somewhat, despite the downturn in NIH funding and single-digit pay lines. We did grow somewhat. The magic number we want to try and attain by the time we write our competitive renewal is $40 million. That brings us into a Tier 2 CFAR, which means instead of $1 million a year of direct and indirect costs, of 1.5 million rather, it goes up to 2.25 million. So it gives us more money to, again, invest in infrastructure. And in order to do that, the year that you're writing the competitive renewal, you have to be at or above 40 million, and you have to be able to sustain it throughout the subsequent 5-year period. We also experienced a bit of growth in membership. This is fantastic. We started off in 2004 with 74 members. Now we're up to 415, and this includes full and associate members. Again, both of which are very valuable to the goings on the CFAR. I want to remind you that CFAR is supported by the NIH, and these are just a listing of the co-funding, co-sponsoring NIH institutes and centers. Ones with the asterisk are in our current portfolio. There are a few that we still don't have funding through them, but they nonetheless contribute to the overall CFAR efforts. Our breakdown is such we're very NIAID centric, which is not too surprising, but we've started to make inroads into NIDA and IMH, NICHD, NHLBI, et cetera. And we hope to continue to grow and broaden our expanse of funding to include NIA, NIGMS, NIMHD, et cetera, such that we encompass all of the co-funding centers and institutes. This hasn't changed very much. The organizational chart remains the same. The cores that are very critical to the CFAR, and hopefully that are critical to you, remain the same under the same directorship, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. Working groups are kind of in flux right now, and we'll talk briefly about where they stand and where we may be going with working groups, but everything else remains basically the same. This one I have to apologize for, because I just thought, well, I'll just flash up the strategic partners and it should be pretty much up to date, but actually we're experiencing quite a bit of change at Duke. Obviously, DTMI is going away. Rob is now head of FDA. David Goldstein is gone. Sal Pizzo is no longer chair. We have a new chair there. So I need to update this slide. I apologize that it does reflect some of this. But it also tells us that, again, our partners, all of the departments and institutes are staying fairly stable, that we have some new additions to include. And I promise to do that by next year, if not before. Of course, we're thrilled that our keynote speaker today is Dr. Maureen Goodenow. This is a picture I stole off the internet when she was being sworn in by Francis Collins, the director of the NIH. And again, we're very, very pleased to have her as our keynote speaker later on. As many of you know, she's a longtime friend and collaborator of John Sleesman, who will introduce her later on in the program. I don't want to dwell too much on what we've done with the CFAR over the past year. I think Herman will deal with much of that, but I did want to remind everyone we have been fairly active in recruitments and retentions. We have Lance Okeke back. We've contributed to faculty packages for Todd Bradley, who I think you'll hear later, and you've heard Wilton Williams, I think, at last year's talk. And then also the recruitment of Megan Hutchko, Ganita Sunisia, who you'll hear from later. And we have several that are still kind of in the hopper that are pending, and we hope to have them finalized maybe by the end of the year, but certainly before the end of this fiscal year. So we scored a 13 on the competitive renewal, but again, we weren't perfect. Not that we are perfect, but we strive to kind of make improvements where there were deficiencies that were pointed out. And of course, the IRG always, even though we got a 13, I think we had a 75-page summary statement that had some critique in it. So there were some things they didn't like, and I think we need to address them. We talked about some of them last year. A failure to achieve a high proportion of publications citing CFAR. So citations are a big metric for CFAR, and now there are nice ways where CFAR staff at the NIH can go in and really kind of see what publications coming out of the Duke CFAR are really citing the Duke CFAR. This was one of the things we showed last year, that we were, in one example, only around 34% of all CFAR publications were being cited. So we urge you again, if you are utilizing any part of CFAR, if you're participating in this retreat, to recognize the contribution of CFAR. It's very important as we move forward. It's a very important metric. Despite success in recruiting and investment in pilot studies, limited return in terms of newly funded R01s and P01s. Well, here I think we've had a fair degree of success. The new P01s include one from Chairman of Medicine Mary Klotman, Sally Permar, Georgia Tamaris, that was funded after the end of fiscal year 2015, but we'll count it this year and next. New R01s are Brian Cullen, Jan Osterman, Kevin Saunders, again Mary Klotman and Sally. And then David Murdoch and Christina Mead, where you have an NOA, right, David? Oh, it was awarded, okay. And actually, David reminded me that was maybe the first award that utilized all of the cores of the CFAR. And I think we're quite proud of it, and Dave and Christina are quite proud of it. Susanna Nagy has an NOA pending. She got a, quote, fundable score and is just waiting for council to decide. And then new R21s, Melissa Watt, Justin Polera, and I probably forgot a few, but just to say that we are experiencing growth, and I think this is the good kind of growth that we want to see and hopefully resulted from CFAR support. They also said that limiting the existence of successful working groups to 3 years does not seem to be productive. The executive committee has gone back and forth on this, and we have two existing working groups: AIDS-associated opportunistic infections and cancer. This is headed by Mika Luftig, and HIV and aging. It's headed by Mary McKellar. We are in the midst of, the executive committee is, and again, over the next 2 months this will be finalized, of perhaps phasing them out and reforming two new working groups that are really focused on NIH AIDS priority areas, and one of them in particular is PrEP. So please stay tuned. We will update you through the website and through emails as far as where these scientific working groups are going, and solicit your participation for those that are interested in the specific areas that we finally decide on. The plans for year 12, we want to, again, Herman's going to be through the developmental core issuing fall and spring small grant RFAs. We want to continue our key recruitment efforts, continue in CFAR Chalk Talks and special seminars. We keep talking about, but this year we're definitely going to do it, or in 2017, a spring event that's much different than this, where we bring everybody together and maybe make it more of a retreat where you have breakout sessions. And so we're going to rely very heavily on Kathy Sickham and the SBS Corps to help us plan that. We will, before you moan, we're going to release a member survey to assist in our ongoing strategic planning efforts. And again, like you, whenever I see surveys come out, you're always a little bit reluctant, but these are very important. This really guides us and lets us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we should be doing, etc. So look for that probably in early 2017. We really utilize that for our strategic planning. And along those lines, this is 2017, February, March, I can't remember the specific date, we're hosting an external advisory board meeting, and we will then need those results from the planning session or from the survey to guide us. We need your help, as always, to improve the overall effectiveness of the CFAR. We're always looking for specific value-added aspects that we can use in our progress reports, our yearly progress reports, and obviously in the competitive renewal. We're always looking for suggestions for speakers for seminars and Chalk Talk topics and speakers. I think due to the efforts of Kelly Plunk and others, we've resurrected the Chalk Talks, and I think they've been actually quite successful. We've had some good turnouts for many of them. We need suggested areas for future retreats and this new spring event. So if you are so inclined, please let us know that you're willing to help in the planning and execution of a spring event, and that's yet to be determined. I think everyone's been very good about identifying potential new CFAR members. They can, if you know of someone who's not a member of CFAR who should be, there is a way through the website that they can contact me directly, and then I forward it on and get the process started. Otherwise, just email me directly if you know of someone that should be a CFAR member. We're always looking at how we can be more involved in community outreach. Again, there's a table that Julia and Stuart, God, I've seen your moment, and Stuart are manning, and I urge you to stop by it during the poster session. And then, how can we better serve the clinical and basic research communities at Duke is always a key question. And then, obviously, we really need your participation in the next CFAR membership survey. This will be shared with the External Advisory Committee and will help us plan where we go from here up through the next competitive renewal. And then visibility, one of the metrics, in addition to small grant awards and how much return those small grant awards bring in, is always publications. And as we said, acknowledgement of the CFAR and publications is very critical, or poster sessions, or any kind of presentation that you're making. And you can go on the website and download the CFAR logo, and there's some verbiage for you also. You don't have to be all that creative in the acknowledgement. We've established a CFAR Directors Award, and this is the 8th year. And to recognize a CFAR member who's most significantly contributed added value, and this is to encourage people to get into the mode of thinking about added value to the CFAR. And it's a $150 gift certificate to Nana's, so it comes not out of a CFAR budget or Department of Medicine comes out of my checking account, which I do gladly as long as I feel that it's being used wisely and will stimulate some more added value. And the winner this year is Laurent Vercosi. Laurent's probably the poster child, although his award was back in 2006. We followed him through 2010. He got his first R01, 2011 his second R01. In the years of 2006 to 2014, he's cited the CFAR in 11 publications. And the return on investment, which is something that, again, we kind of shunned at first, but it is a metric that NIH uses, and we kind of go through each time we do a progress report or competitive renewal. His is 30. We invested $78,000 on Laurent, and he brought back over $2 million in grant funding. So that's a pretty good return. So if we can get people to kind of emulate Laurent, and it would be great. I don't think Laurent's here, but I will make sure he gets the gift certificate to Nana's, and congratulations, Laurent. And then I finally just want to end special thanks to Kelly Plunk, who's really taken on all the responsibilities for getting this retreat organized, with the assistance of Mary, who is the foodie of the group, and make sure that you guys are fed very well. So I think with that I'll end and turn it over to Herman.